All systems go. Clear for takeoff.
What's up, everyone? Hebrewcheetah here with another early look at the Week 3 NFL DFS slate for DraftKings. Hope that everyone had a successful Week 2. Personally, it was a pretty good bounce back for me after kind of struggling Week 1 a little bit. I got second place for a live final seat, so hopefully, next time I could take it down, come away with the seat. But I'll touch on that in a little bit. I want to go over my lineup process a little bit. I ended up maxing out the $9 slant, which I think is a really good tournament for anybody that's looking to get into working on their MME process. It's a 2 times min cash, so you make $18 if you cash versus some other not so great tournaments where they barely give you 1.5x your money. So that's a good one to look for in the future. We had a lineup in the top 12 over there, so that kind of helped me boost my profits for that. But all in all, it was a pretty good week for me. I was very happy with my process and my lineup building and everything. So I definitely want to touch on some spots that I think I made the right choice and some other spots I think I can improve on. So let's start off with the running back situation. So we had some chalk condensing around Josh Kelly and AJ Dillon. And I think, if you're playing cash games, they were the right play. There's just no way around it. They're going to get all the touches, and the volume was good for them. They just didn't have, they didn't finish with a very good score. So for me, I was lower on those guys in tournaments. I was looking to make the pivot to Rachaad White, David Montgomery, and Kenneth Walker, and then also looking to pay up for Bijan and McCaffrey and Derrick Henry a little bit. But I wanted to get some pieces of that Lions Seahawks game, and I thought Kenneth Walker was a smart bring back. For the quarterback, I was originally on Josh Allen. I had a little bit of him in my portfolio, but the guys that I ended up playing a lot of that helped me with my MME was Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. The Anthony Richardson play, obviously he got injured, early in the game, and he was on his way to having a massive game. He already had 17 points on their first couple of drives. Then he gets ruled out with concussion. That was rough because his ownership was good. It was looking like 5 or 6%. So I was really happy with that. But I was looking to correlate him with Nico Collins mainly, and obviously he had a great game finish with upwards of 30 DraftKings points. And I think he's going to be somebody I'd be targeting a lot this year. Was also looking to bring back Tank Dell in some of those lineups, and he had a good game at a low price tag, low ownership. So I thought that was, I made the right decision there. And then in hindsight, I had about 24% of Anthony Richardson. I think in hindsight, in lineups that didn't include him, I should have boosted up Zach Moss a little bit. I just completely overlooked that play. He was a 4,600 running back that was going to get the start, and he ended up just dominating all of the touches. So he turned out to be a pretty good play. I don't think he would have scored as well, obviously, if Anthony Richardson is in there, because he just takes away so much rushing upside from these running backs. But in hindsight, I think I probably would have wanted to boost him up a little bit. And something else I wanted to touch on, we were talking about it a little bit in Discord earlier today. When you have some cheap chalk running back plays or cheap receiver chalk, I think if you want to get into playing them in tournaments and stuff like that, a thing you should be looking to do is setting for the solver, for our partner, the solver, they have a good feature where you can set a boost, saying if lineup includes Josh Kelly, boost Chig and Treylon Burks and DeAndre Hopkins. So that was something I was doing. I wasn't fully fading Joshua Kelly just in case, he did have a good game, but I wanted to increase my ceiling for that lineup and those players by boosting it with a bring back from that same game, hoping that Joshua Kelly is just dominating touches, getting 100-yard rushing, couple touchdowns, and then, forcing the Titans to throw a little bit, so that would, lead me to getting more of the pass catchers from that game and just boosting that correlation. Same thing I did with A.J. Dillon and lineups that was including him. I was boosting Kyle Pitts and Drake London, and I had a good amount of Drake London in my portfolio. He ended up having a decent day, but yeah, that's something just to kind of look forward to, like later on in the year when you get these chalk running back plays. Eventually, they're gonna, the chalk is gonna perform well, but we need to try to maximize the ceiling in our lineup when we do play them. Another guy that ended up coming in pretty chalky as a cheap receiver was Jaden Reed, and in lineups that was including him, I was boosting Bijan. I was pretty heavily on Bijan all week, and he obviously still splitting touches with Algier, but he had a really productive day, just a touchdown away from having a bigger one. So I'll continue to play him, and I thought that was a smart play. I also set a rule to boost up Puka Nacua in lineups that included Debo, and Debo came in as a pretty high owned option. He was cheap, 5,500, 5,600 around there. So I wanted to make sure that I had some correlation in that game, and in hindsight, I wish I boosted up Kyron Williams a little bit more too after we got the news that Akers was going to be a healthy scratch. But Puka crushed, so that that really helped me a lot too. And he actually came in surprisingly really low owned. I thought people would be pretty excited to play him after the massive game week 1. So yeah, I liked my process there. And another mistake I think I made, Daniel Jones ended up being my second highest quarterback on the week, and I wasn't trying to force a double stack or any stack really with him, just because he has so much rushing upside and touchdown equity that I don't think that you really have to be forcing that. It's different when you have a player like Justin Herbert or like Joe Burrow, where they're like, their pocket passes, they're not going to rush for 100 yards and a touchdown, where we know that Daniel Jones has that upside. So I didn't want to force those lineups, but we're reviewing our process. So I think in hindsight, maybe boosting up Saquon and Waller. We know that those are the two main options in the passing game. That would have probably been a sharp move. And I believe the person that shipped the Millie had a stack with Saquon and Waller with no bring back. So that worked out for him. Had a lot of Devontae and Diggs correlations with it. Didn't really work out that well when, Devontae, the game was just out of reach. Diggs wasn't really needed in a volume role. Devontae, he had a solid game, ended up getting injured towards the end, but just it wasn't what you needed from those guys at that price tag. And then I want to talk about my one live final seat. Had a good sweat in the afternoon games where I had it was pretty much a 2v1 where the guy in front of me had the Cowboys defense and Christian McCaffrey, and I just had Tony Pollard, and I was with about 6-7 minutes left in the game, I was about a point or two away from passing him, and then Pollard just ran really poor on getting touchdowns last week. He had a ton of attempts, but there's also some times where they brought in Rico Dowdle. They were using a lot of Deuce Vaughn in the game, and yeah, just unlucky. But I still, even if Pollard gets a touchdown, it doesn't. I end up losing by like 12 because Zach Wilsoned up and ended up just throwing interceptions left and right towards the end of the game, and then McCaffrey just was dominating all the usage at running back and ended up getting the 100-yard bonus, and that put the guy ahead of me by a good bit, but ended up getting second place, and I still was happy with my process there. I had a Goff double stack, and instead of going to Amon-Ra St. Brown, I went with Josh Reynolds and Sam Laporta, and the reason being was just because I wanted to save some more salary, and I thought that Josh Reynolds was a pretty good way to do that. He had a really really solid projection, and I just thought that it was the smart move to make. And then obviously Sam Laporta, he was pretty popular last weekend, but he had a cheap price tag, 3,900, and I always lean to paying down at tight end. So that made it easy to make that decision. But I ended up going with DK Metcalf instead of Kenneth Walker or Tyler Lockett, and that kind of hurt. He only ended with 13.5 points. So that didn't help me. But also another reason why I wanted to pay down in my stack was because I wanted to be a little bit more contrarian and get up to Tony Pollard and Derrick Henry in two pretty good spots. I thought they had reasonable games, 18.5 for Henry, 19.9 for Pollard. Solid game, but it's not winning you anything with that. And then I had the Bills defense, just a kind of pay up to be contrarian spot at defense where, Jimmy Garoppolo is what he is. He's not turning the ball over a ton, but not scoring a lot of points. I was happy with that, I guess. 10 points was solid, but kind of wish I got some more from them. And then I had the Puka Nacua and Deebo Samuel pairing, which was really good. Puka only came in at 11.5% in the tournament. Deebo is at 25. So yeah, overall was, I'm very happy with my process from last week, but still more to build on. So let's talk about these games now for week 3. And we're going to start with Indy at Baltimore. Got a solid point total at 44.5 right now. I like this game a lot. Again, I think that Indy, they're playing with a lot of pace right now. Hopefully Anthony Richardson's back to kind of push the pace even more. But yeah, he looks good this year, and surprisingly being able to get it done solidly through the air. So people were talking about just running him naked earlier in the year, but I think you can make a case for some of the pass catchers on the Colts side. If Anthony Richardson is in, you could really make a case for Gardner Minshew too if he's starting. He's a fine quarterback. He's not going to destroy you in the air, but he's serviceable enough to keep the game close enough, I think. I like Josh Downs though on the Colts side. Going to remain cheap, and I think every week that passes, he's going to be eating into Alec Pierce's workload more and more. He's only 3,500 right now, so I would be looking to him on the passing attack. Obviously Pittman is the kind of the pay up guy, big upside. Don't mind him, but yeah, I really prefer Lamar Jackson in this matchup. He was more pass happy last game than he was in week 1. And I think that the Colts are going to be a team we're going to be targeting a lot this year. They gave up 384 yards and 2 touchdowns to CJ Stroud last week. And the receivers all had pretty good games. And Nico Collins went 7 for 146 and a touchdown. Robert Woods, 6 for 74. Tank Dell, 7 for 72 and a touchdown. Lamar's first game without J.K. Dobbins, threw the ball 33 times for 237 and 2 touchdowns, but he was also running the ball a lot with 12 attempts for 45 yards. And this is what we play Lamar Jackson for. We know the rushing upside, we know the touchdown upside with his feet. But if he's throwing the ball 35-ish times, then the ceiling is pretty massive for him. And Zay Flowers profiles as a guy that I really like in this matchup. He's in he's got a reasonable price tag right now, 5,400. I think there'll be some pretty popular options in that range, so I think that could keep his ownership down. I like him a lot, especially if Odell misses. That just will funnel a little bit more targets his way. But also, it's good to see Mark Andrews back. Obviously, that's a big boost to Lamar. Don't know if I want to get to him. His price tag is not terrible, it was $6K, but I think I would personally rather just prefer to pay down at tight end. That's just how I want to play it. I don't think you need to force a double stack for Lamar. I could be wrong though. I said the same thing about Daniel Jones, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, on the Colts side, it's just gonna be Josh Downs for me and Pittman. But I want to talk about Zach Moss really quick. I don't really want to attack Baltimore on the ground, but it's hard to overlook what he did last week. He dominated every single running back touch. I think he was the only running back to get any rush attempt, and he's cheap enough to make your stack work if you wanted to get up to Lamar and Andrews. I'm assuming he's going to be the cheap chalk this week at running back. He's 5,500, got a little bit of a boost, but probably going to be decently owned, I would say. I only see 5% right now, but we'll see how that pans out throughout the week. So that's going to be it for that game for me. Go to the Tennessee and Cleveland game, looking at a 39.5 point total. So it's really, really low. So this is a similar situation to the Joshua Kelly chalk last week, where it's another chalk, or same thing with Jamal Williams, but another chalk running back going against Tennessee, who has a very, very stout run defense. So that's the negative case to make for Jerome Ford, who's going to be stepping in as the lead back, likely for Nick Chubb for the time being. Also, it's just terrible injury for Chubb. Huge fan of his. Hope that he can, come back, be 100%. It's just a gruesome injury. I really, really feel bad for the guy. So hopefully he can make a quick recovery and be back. But yeah, for the DFS side, Jerome Ford had a really good game filling in last night for him. Had 100 yards rushing, and he had a receiving touchdown. I think if he's given the same role, if we have definitive word that he's going to be given the same role, then he's probably a pretty good play. I think, he's obviously he'll be chalky. He's only 4,800, did not get a big price boost, but this is where you can kind of gain some leverage on this game, where instead of playing Jerome Ford, you stack up the passing attack for the Browns. And Tennessee seems more like a pass funnel than a run funnel this year. You can beat them through the air. So stack up Deshaun Watson with Amari Cooper and Njoku or Elijah Moore. I don't really see the upside for DPJ right now, but yeah, I like Njoku. He's got a decent price tag, 4,200. And then the bringbacks for me would just be Treylon Burks. I'm not paying up for DeAndre Hopkins right now. I don't see the upside for him at 6,300. You could also make a case for Derrick Henry. Not sure if Cleveland's run defense is great or not right now, but Derrick Henry, he's a stud, so he can get it done regardless. But yeah, I wanted to mention that. I think that's a big leverage spot. I think that this will be a kind of a big talking point throughout the week. How you play the Elijah or Jerome Ford chalk. Personally, I probably will take the same stance I did with AJ Dillon and Joshua Kelly this week, where I'm underweight, or I'm just trying to boost up the pass catchers to kind of create that correlation. But let's move on to Atlanta versus Detroit. It's a home game. So Atlanta at Detroit, 46 point total. And Detroit home games they bleed fantasy points. There's just no way around it. There's fantasy points to be had everywhere. The issue is, not sure if Desmond Ridder is a good quarterback. He's just finding it hard to get the ball to his playmakers other than Bijan, but he's probably their best. I mentioned it last week. He's probably their best passing option right now on offense. So I don't mind him. I don't really want to be like super overweight in this, just because we got to see with injuries what's going to happen with Montgomery, what's going to happen with Amon-Ra. I think that will really dictate things. I like Jahmyr Gibbs. I just think he's super talented and got big receptions upside. We know he has like breakaway speed, so he can bust a few off for 50, 60 yards. We just got to see how they're gonna handle the running back situation. It wasn't super encouraging to see Craig Reynolds get in there and have the same amount of RB touches after Montgomery left the game. So I just want to wait, get more definitive word on that. But I do like Gibbs, and yeah, I mean, you can make a case for the Goff double stacks again with Josh Reynolds. He didn't even get a price bump, and see, Sam Laporta is 4K now, so you're not really investing a ton of salary getting into a double stack here. And yeah, the bring back option would just be Bijan for me. I just don't trust the passing attack for Atlanta right now. I would rather just attack it with the running back. I mean, you can make a case for Algier too. He's going to get his 15, 16 touches or whatever it is, and he's only 5K or 5,100. So that's where I would be going for that game, but not super excited about it. New Orleans versus Green Bay. This is just going to be a slow-paced game. Don't really want to attack this really from either side. Have to just keep an eye on Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. That will create a lot of value again with A.J. Dillon and probably Tony Jones Jr., but we got to keep an eye on Kendre Miller too. He was pretty close to returning last week, and the word is that he'll probably be back by week 3. So got to keep an eye on those guys. I would probably be in New Orleans. They can be had against running backs. I wouldn't, if the ownership stays low on AJ Dillon, people are scared to go back to him. I think this would be a pretty good bounce back spot for him, but not super excited about this game much outside of that. Let's move on to Houston at Jacksonville. This game has a 43.5 point total. I think this is a game that could go over. CJ Stroud looks legit. They're throwing the ball a ton. The running backs are not good. They're really being forced to air it out, which is what we love to see for fantasy. And there's some options on the Jacksonville side, obviously with Ridley, ETN, Christian Kirk. It's 5,400. Those would be the main 3 I'd want to look at. And I don't think I really want to get up to Lawrence as a stack option. I would much rather be excited about playing CJ Stroud, just because you're not spending much on him. He's only 5,300. Nico Collins 5,300. I'll go right back to Tank Dell. Where is he? He's only 3,600. So yeah, I'm fine going right back to this Houston side. This game it's got sneaky shootout potential, I think. So I do like this game a little bit for DFS. Let's move on to Denver at Miami. Looking at a 48-point total, so pretty one of the higher ones on the week, and rightfully so. Main question is we just don't know if we don't know how good or bad this Broncos offense is. They looked a lot better last week, and had a big shootout with Washington. Russell Wilson looked a little bit more like himself. The issue is the Broncos have a million receivers to throw the ball to. They're rotating all these guys out, so it's hard to make a case that any one of them is going to be the one that breaks out. The one I would be, I guess, the most confident in would be Jerry Jeudy. 6,500. He's going to be very, very, very low owned. But I think just the further we get into the season, the further he puts the hamstring injury behind him, will be better for him. He's a super talented guy. We saw what he did towards the end of the season last year, so he would be the guy I think that would be able to keep this one close. And for the Miami side, it's just going to be Tyreek for me. I don't really want to chase the Raheem Mostert upside play. He's 6K. Looking at some modest ownership right now. Wouldn't be too excited about playing him. So it'd be Tyreek for me. I want to actually mention Javonte Williams. Similar story with him, where he obviously had his ACL injury, and every week that we pass in the season, the more it bodes well for these guys, where they're just getting healthier and healthier. And you're starting to see the uptick in usage for him a little bit. It was pretty tilting seeing him get vultured by Caleb McLaughlin for a touchdown, but I don't want to read into that too much. That was his only touch of the game, so it's not like he's stealing work away from Javonte. I think it's more likely he takes work away from Samaje Perine. But yeah, I think you can. We saw Josh Kelly and Austin Eckler have good games against Miami week 1. I think that Miami is going to they're going to dare teams to beat them on the ground more so than through the air, and they're just going to make them run the ball more. So I think that would, that'd make Javonte Williams pretty intriguing for me, and he's got a good price tag, only 5,500. One of these weeks he's going to bust out, and the rest of the season he'll be over 6K. So we want to be ahead of the curve on that. Let's move over to the Chargers at Minnesota, and I'm assuming this game is going to garner everybody's attention. It's the highest total in the week by a good amount at 53.5. And rightfully so, this game is going to be exciting from a stacking perspective. A lot of different ways to handle it. I think that this is really going to be the kind of make or break point in your lineups, figuring out which of the right spots you want to attack. Obviously, Justin Jefferson, best receiver in the league, highest upside, probably smashes here. Issue is he's 9,300, which is just absurd. That's a huge price tag. So I don't think that you'll be able to, go Kirk Cousins, JJ Hawkinson, or something like that. You're going to need to. It's going to need to be more of a mini correlation if you wanted to play him. Going with like the Stroud and two of his receivers, or like Goff and Reynolds and Laporta, something like that, to allow you to get up to JJ. And then, Keenan Allen is going to be. I'm assuming he's going to be more and more popular. The role is really, really good for him right now. I was expecting this to be Mike Williams' season, but he fools us every single year. We just want to play him. We know he has big upside. It's just hard to pinpoint when that's going to happen. I'll likely have a lot of him again just because I gotta keep doing it until he pays it off for me. But yeah, I'd prefer Keenan Allen here if I'm looking to attack the aerial game for the Chargers. But something I did want to mention here. Seeing early ownership at 12.3% on Joshua Kelly. I'm not sure if that's gonna stick. I feel like there's a chance it comes in lower unless people are just looking to stack, Herbert and Josh Kelly and Keenan Allen and JJ or something like that. I think people are going to be more excited to play the passing attack in this game rather than going back to Josh Kelly, who let everybody down. So I think this is actually a pretty interesting spot for him to have a bounce back game. We saw what DeAndre Swift just did to Minnesota. Their run defense is no good, and the volume was there for Josh Kelly. He had the RB1 workload. There is nobody really competing for touches with him. He just didn't have an effective game against Tennessee. They're a good run defense. So I think you can gain actually a good amount of leverage by going with the Josh Kelly side over any of the pass catchers on the Chargers. All the Chargers, they have pretty decent price tags, so it doesn't make it that hard to get to Mike Williams or Keenan Allen or Justin Herbert or even the tight ends. But I think the way I'm going to be playing it as of right now, my thoughts could change throughout the week as we get more news and everything. But as it stands right now, I think I'm going to take a stance on the Joshua Kelly side. Oh yeah, I have to mention Jordan Addison. He's really intriguing to me from the Viking side. After KJ Osborne had a really, really down game, even though he caught a touchdown in the Thursday Night Football game, if you watched it, you just saw how bad he struggled. I mean, he was dropping passes left and right. It was a really, really rough game for him. Meanwhile, Jordan Addison is out here making plays left and right. So he, obviously rookies, it takes a little bit of time for them to ramp up, but he's been pretty legit right away. So I think, as the week progresses, as we get further into the season, his role continues to grow, and we could see some really, really big games from him. So I would be pretty excited to jump on the train here if he keeps his ownership in check. Let's move to the New England Patriots at the New York Jets. Not going to stack up the offenses here. This is pretty simple. Just play the defenses. I don't think you're really gaining much by trying to get different and play a stack on this one. So just go with the defenses. Move to Buffalo at Washington. When I was writing up some notes for this show, I was actually looking at this game and I kind of got a little bit excited. Washington's offense looks very, very legit with the new offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City. Sam Howell is a dual threat quarterback, can get there through the air or with his legs. Had a good game last week. Really cheap price tag, only $5,400. All of his stacking options are really, really cheap too. Terry McLaurin, $5,600. We know that he's a stud, wide receiver one. Jahan Dotson, only $4,900. I don't think he's very good, but people were very excited about him coming into the year. But he's cheap. And somebody I want to mention was something in the tight end group. Logan Thomas got knocked out last game with a pretty nasty concussion. Looked really bad. It could be. It's possible that he misses this game. And I want to mention Cole Turner. He was somebody I talked about a little bit coming into the season. Big athletic tight end. Profiles pretty well, just from a DFS perspective. He's only 2,700. you can do a lot worse than him. I think if he's going to be the starter, I assumed he would be probably pretty high owned just because of the cheap price tag. But maybe the full stack with Terry and Sam Howell won't be super high owned. And on the Bills side, it's the usual suspects. Stephon Diggs, 8,100. Saving a lot of salary coming down from JJ and Tyreek to get to Diggs, and he possesses a similar ceiling, I think, to all those guys. Gabe Davis is in that range of receivers I assume to be pretty high on this week, 5,800. But he finally had a good game last week. I think that the coach speak, Sean McDermott, kind of getting on him a little bit, probably lit a fire. And yeah, last year he hit that ankle injury that really just kind of ruined the season for him. He wasn't able to get fully healthy, and he said that this year he's fully healthy. So I expect this season he has the season what we all expected last year. So I'll be pretty excited to play him. Not going to any of the cheap punt options like Shakir, Deontay Hardy. 6,400 for James Cook. Probably a little too pricey for me. He had a really good roll last week, got over 100 yards. Did get into the box though. They put Latavius Murray in there, and I think that's probably going to be how they're going to view this running back room. James Cook, the early down back, probably the 3 down back, but then once they get to goal line, they need the big body veteran to punch it in. I want to also mention the Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson stuff. So Brian Robinson, I was really high on him coming into the year, stepping into that what's the name of that running back they had last year? J.D. McKissick, stepping into the J.D. McKissick role, being the pass catcher. Pretty excited about that. I was high on him coming into the league. Memphis guy, super athletic, really was a receiver turned running back. So it got me pretty excited about that. But got into the doghouse week 1, had a crucial fumble. And then Brian Robinson had a really good game last week at 18 rush attempts, 2 touchdowns. But I could see Gibson getting it done through the air this week. Only 4,700, saving $900 getting down from Brian Robinson to him. I think he could be a pretty sneaky running back play this week. So I like him a little bit. Let's move on to Carolina and Seattle. 42-point total. I don't think I'll be on any of the pass catchers in this game. More so looking at the Seattle defense and Kenneth Walker. You can have a little correlation there. Hope that Seattle gets a couple picks, puts them into the red zone. Kenneth Walker punches it in. I do want to mention Dusty Adam Thielen, who had a good game yesterday for the 2-gamer. I think that if we're going to be looking to attack the Seattle defense, it's via the slot receivers, and that's where Adam Thielen's lining up most of the time. He's got a good price tag, 3,900. Wrote down some notes just for you see the last 2 games of slot receivers that went up against the Seahawks. We had Puka Nacua week 1 go for 10 for 119, no touchdowns, but had Amon-Ra St. Brown last week go for 6 for 102. So, I think that's the bull case you're making for Adam Thielen, but the bear case is that he's a declining old receiver that doesn't probably have much left in the tank. But that would be the correlation I'd be looking to make if I'm playing Kenneth Walker. Let's go to the Dallas at Arizona game. Man, Roger Goodell just helping out his buddy Jerry Jones as much as he can with this schedule for the Cowboys. They're going to get an easy 3-0 start, most likely. Arizona, they're not trying to win games. They had a good start against the Giants, but let it slip away, dropped a huge lead. I don't really want any part of that offense, especially against this Dallas defense. Same thing for me last week with the Cowboys this week. It's just CD and Pollard and then Dallas defense. I don't want to go out of my way to sack them. Last game on the board here, I believe. Yes, it is Chicago at Kansas City. Man, Fields been a big letdown this year. I was not super into him coming into the season for best ball or anything like that. Just he's not not an NFL ready quarterback right now. Hopefully he can get it together, but it's just not a good passer of the football. And that's your job. You gotta improve in that. But it's you can't deny it that he's got fantasy upside just purely on the ground. And in the positive game script for him in terms of him having to drop back a ton to pass it, I do think he has some good sneaky upside. Issue is he's pretty pricey, 7,100. So you're really banking on a very big game from him, where I prefer the guys that are cheaper than him. But he's gonna be super low owned, and you just hope that he can get there with his feet and maybe toss a touchdown to DJ Moore. That would be the pass catcher I'd be looking to pair with him. Don't really want to go out of my way to do that, but that's how I would be attacking it. And it's just too big of a spread for me to want to play 8,300 Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, he's got huge ceiling, probably the highest ceiling for quarterbacks on the slate. But Chicago is not going to be able to keep this game close. I'd more so be looking to the running backs from this game. It's just tough because Pacheco would be the one I would want to go to. He's 5,400, but he just doesn't get the same volume that a lot of the guys priced around him do. So you're really hoping for a highly efficient game on lower volume, or hope that he gets 20 plus touches, which I just don't see happening really. He's mainly just going to be a pivot for me for all the guys in that same range. But yeah, that's going to do it for my game by game breakdown. I'll just do a little recap of my favorite games I want to attack from like a stacking perspective. And number one is going to be the Chargers and Minnesota. I think you're going to need somebody from this game in most, if not all, of your lineups, whether that be running backs or receivers. You gotta attack it. Number two, Indy at Baltimore. Huge upside from Lamar. I think if Indy can keep it close. And number three, Washington, Buffalo. This probably be my favorite low-owned stack, just hoping that Washington will be able to do enough to keep it close, and I think they can. Number four will be Houston and Jacksonville. I like Stroud's passing upside. You can pair him with ETN or Kirk or Ridley. And then last one would be Denver, Miami. The reason I have them ranked here is just I'm just not super high on the Denver offense as a whole, but maybe Miami can get ahead early and force a ceiling game out of Denver. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. If you guys have any questions, if you're a member at SHIPIT, you have any strategy questions, anything like that, I'm always around in Discord to help. So you can, feel free to reach out to me, shoot me a DM, and I'll be willing to help you guys. So yeah, good luck everybody. See you next week.